Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Fundraising Today. I am joined by a guest that I have been wanting to have on our show for a very long time, and that is Lisa Greer. Lisa is the author of Philanthropy Revolution, and I'm excited to have her with us today. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
You have done a lot of amazing things with this knowledge that you've gained. You've written the Philanthropy Revolution. You've also started a community on Substack for folks with, I think, webinars at least once a month or Zoom calls once a month where
That's
you
right.
get together.
That's right. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
We have our paid subscribers. There's a free subscription, of which there's many thousand people with that. And then we have a paid subscription option where people, by paying for that, they then become, or by being a premium subscriber, they're then invited to a monthly meeting where we have a Zoom for about an hour with different fundraisers from all over the world. Actually, we have a couple of people from London or England that come in, actually another person from Ireland, who are regulars. And we discuss the topics of the week or the month and what challenges they've had at their institutions and their organizations. And then the group is able to help them. And it's absolutely wonderful. So we've been doing that for about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months. And it's really terrific.
One of the articles you recently published on your Substack was you shared this story about how last year you attended a talk on recurring giving, and it wasn't a particularly well attended talk. And it was frustrating to you because you see recurring giving as this green field of opportunity, but there's a lot of nonprofits that aren't really sure how to get a recurring giving program off the ground or if it's even valuable. So let's just dive into recurring giving and how nonprofits can leverage this really valuable area of fundraising.
Sure. I think it's a big mistake for any organization to not offer a recurring giving program. I think the big issue has been, it's something that's just not the norm. It's not the same as we've done it forever. It's an add-on. If everything else is going fine, we might add that in at some point. But I also, and also a general resistance to change. But I also think that a big reason is that there is this weird belief that if somebody gives a recurring amount, they're going to give a smaller amount, which is probably true. But it's going to then get in the way of them giving a one-time gift or giving an annual gift. And that they're then losing money by doing that. And does that make sense? Yeah. So all the research which has addressed this, and there's a lot of it, says that's absolutely false. That people who give monthly are more attached to your organization, and they end up being more sticky over time. In fact, about 90% of them are still with you. I believe it was 2 or 3 years later. And if you look at that on the one-time giver, annual giving piece, those people, about 18% of them are still there. It's probably even less 2 years later, but about 18% would give the second year. Sometimes some people say 20%, but that's it. So it's a huge difference. And one of the really exciting things that's come up is that there are lots of donors who are willing to do both. So I myself do both. I do regular giving. And then if somebody says we have the specific thing or specific need that we need, I'll give them that. So that would be one-time giving. And then if they say, wait, we really need to even out our cash flow, we need to do an annual giving thing, I don't mind doing that too. I have no problem with that. And I certainly wouldn't say, then I'm not going to give you this other money. That's just not, I don't think that's logical. But the nice thing about recurring giving is a whole bunch of nice things. One is that it's predictable cash flow. It's done in the business world, been done forever. And I don't think any of us knows anybody who doesn't have a credit card on file somewhere where it's being billed every month. And it is unusual. You have to have a really good reason to take that credit card away while it's being billed every month, as opposed to having a really good reason not to give someone your credit card in the first place. Once they have it, if they're doing having any kind of communication with you, you'll just keep going. You'll just keep that there. And the organization then has the wonderful kind of byproduct of that is that they've got cash flow during the summer months, for example, or April, May, June, when most nonprofits have their dips. And this just keeps going. And like I said, it's predictable. So it's a wonderful thing for every reason I can think of. And I can't think of any good reason not to do it. We also found out from some recent research that recurring givers are more likely to start giving in a recurring gift program in January. They're more likely to give in January than in December, which is amazing because how many things do we have that start in January where that's the best time to do it? And it also is something that people can start at a low amount and they can go higher. It's not a problem. Some people, you can ask. If they say no, that's okay. But they usually won't take their credit card away. It'll still be, if they're giving you $5 a month or $50 a month or $500 a month, they'll usually let it ride, I guess is the best way to say it. I think nonprofits that don't do this and don't put it, when I say front and center, yeah, it should be the way that I've seen it recently in the last few months by some kind of forward-looking people in the industry. You ask somebody for their donation, for the one-time donation, and then right below it, or would you like to give this monthly? Would you like to give it all at once? Or would you like to one time only? I've seen that. I've also seen people say, would you like to give us a one-time gift? And you have your regular gift, and you can even have numbers attached there if you want to. Right below it in the same size font, it says, would you also like to join our recurring giving program? And then really the responsibility of the organization in exchange is just to keep them posted periodically on what you're doing and not to treat them, if they're giving you $100 a month, they are not a $100 donor. They are 90% likely to be a $1,200 donor. Therefore, the person who is working with them during the year with whatever stewardship group you have should have them in the 1,000+ category instead of the $100 category. And that's something that very few people are doing, but I'm hoping that people will realize that really makes sense. And it'll just get better and better from there.
The stewardship part of it is really fascinating because in so many ways, recurring givers really look a lot more like mid-level donors. And we get so many questions from nonprofits about how they can grow and improve their mid-level programs. And I think you'd agree with me that it starts with the recurring giving program because somebody who signs up even for a small amount monthly are testing the waters of what it's like to give to you, what your stewardship program looks like, because the way that someone treats you in the small things can be indicative of how they will treat you in the big things.
That's an excellent point. And I do a lot of research on millennials and Gen Z givers and people who are just new to this, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through. I would love it if they started giving and had a wonderful experience and wanted to do more of it. And the research shows that people who are younger, I think it was done with millennials, but it probably, I think it applies to Gen Z as well. They are much more likely to volunteer for an organization before giving. So they'll say, gee, I'm thinking of giving $500 to this organization or $1,000. They'll say, you know what, I'm going to volunteer first. And this is a conscious choice they're making, lots of them. I'm going to volunteer with them because that's where I'll be able to see how they treat like regular people. And that's where I'm going to be able to see if it's a functional or dysfunctional organization. And that's where I'm going to get to meet people. And if they treat me like, excuse the word crap, then I'm not going to give them the bigger dollar. And that's just the way it's going to be. And I think it's brilliant. And I do think a lot of people are doing that. So this idea of siloing your volunteers separate from your little donors, separate from your mid-level donors, et cetera, does not do us any favors. I think we need to bring these people together and say, look, anybody who supports us, we want to talk to you. We want to fill you in on how we're doing, let you know about our impact, let you know about our needs. And that's really the way to have a real relationship and a long-term relationship with a donor.
Another really striking statistic that you shared in your article was that only 9% of donors receive a thank you after their third month of giving. And another interesting stat that I've seen elsewhere is that most transactional emails like receipts can get upwards of an 80% open rate. And that's true for lots of other kinds of transactional emails, whether it's getting like a receipt or a shipping confirmation or something like that. And so it strikes me that nonprofits that aren't taking opportunities in those types of emails are potentially missing opportunities to engage those donors further and let them know about the impact of their gift, or if there are any upcoming campaigns that the donor should be aware of where they may have an opportunity to make an additional over and above one-time gift. So many continual touch points that may be invisible to the nonprofit, but the donor definitely sees.
There's a lot of things that are done that are invisible, both problems, solutions, ideas that are invisible to the nonprofit. And that's a real problem. It's almost like every nonprofit should have somebody just to say, I'm going to spend a month figuring out what's going on in the world because they're not paying attention. The thing about the receipts is brilliant. You had mentioned that to me earlier, and I think that's absolutely a big missed opportunity. You said 80% of them receipts in these transactional emails people do open. For just fundraising emails, it's between about 20 and 40%. I don't know the number, but it's clearly much lower. And I'm guessing it's closer to 20%. It might even be less than that. And also snail mail. You can almost tell on these if it's a receipt when you get it from the envelope, if it's a receipt or if it's a solicitation. Putting something in there, I think, is fantastic. And I think that especially for all givers, but I think especially for your recurring givers, every communication with them doesn't have to be asking for money. I know that, and I used to think too, that you should always ask for money because if you don't ask, you don't get. But from a donor's point of view, now that I've been doing this a long time, it is so refreshing. Just like that meeting I was talking about having at the restaurant and thinking that, oh gosh, I got through an hour and a half and they didn't ask me. It's really cool to read something and see that they're not asking you for money. In fact, they're saying thank you. Thank you for supporting us in the past, blah, blah, blah. And I also, for during the year, and someone asked me just the other day, do we have to send these every day, every time they give money? You have to do whatever you have to do for the legal piece. Some people just do it once a year and that's fine. But you have to communicate with these people on an ongoing basis if you want that credit card to stay there. And if you want to continue the relationship. So you have to put something into it as well. And when you look at them as a small donor that really we don't have time for that. We don't have resources to talk to them. It's a big mistake. So one organization that I know came up with this idea to have surprise gifts come to the recurring donors during the year and say, this is just for our recurring donors. Like it's a special program, like a lot of people use their legacy program as a special program or annual givers program. This is our recurring, you guys are the lifeblood of our organization and keep us running and whatever it is you want to say. And then what they do is they take stuff from swag that they had for something else and, something that they have, whatever, 100 of or 1,000 of or however many recurring givers, and send that with a little note saying, you are important to us and we see you. And that is just going to get that 90% going for a long time where people will continue giving in that way. So we need to be creative with that.
Another tactic that I've seen some nonprofits employ is having a dedicated monthly donor concierge where it's every single email that goes to the monthly donor is signed by that person and they have a direct line of contact to that person and they can feel like they actually have a relationship with someone one-on-one, and it simulates the relationship that a major donor might have with their gift officer, but of course it's being done at a much larger scale, and that's another tactic that I've seen work really well.
I have not seen that, but I think it's terrific. And as long as that person the concierge actually is able to speak with people high in the organization, so they actually really do know what's going on, they can communicate that. Another thing you can do is you can do special webinars or podcasts or webinars, whatever they are, presentations online just for your recurring givers. And you say to them, this is just for you. And I think that's wonderful. I've never seen it done, but I have a feeling people will start doing it. It's really easy. And with the software we have, if you get 1,000 people, it doesn't matter. It's great. And you're just telling them what's going on. Another great thing for recurring givers is to send them text messages. So a text message that, hey, thank you for that. And give them a little tidbit of something that your organization accomplished this week or this month. People will love that. Everything doesn't require, and frankly, I don't think they require a handwritten note. There are some people who like that, but all the studies about thank you notes say that it really doesn't matter if it's handwritten for most people, not all. It doesn't matter if it's on pretty stationery. It doesn't matter, like one person was saying on Twitter, which color ink you use. What matters is that you get thanked promptly. And that's the most important. The other things are important, but to a lesser extent. I go on the 48-hour rule, that 48 hours later, you should be thanked somehow. I don't care how it is. Honestly, I'm fine with an email. Some people think, oh no, people aren't going to get an email. No, I'm fine with an email. Most donors are. But I have heard some people say that they think it should be the same day. It just depends on what's possible with your organization. Someone even said to me 45 minutes, but I don't know if that's possible. And there's lots of really easy ways to say thank you that don't cost any money. You can record a video with your iPhone, with your cell phone, and send that to someone. Say, hey, I just want to say thank you. This is so great that you're here helping us. The end. Or someone came up with an idea the other day that why don't we have some of our grantees who were participating in this? I think in this case it was people who had scholarships from a nonprofit, and have them say, hey, I just want to say thank you. You guys keep supporting me. This is so great. And I got an A in my test today. The end. And you can send that out and people will just love it. And you notice when I'm saying this, I'm not asking for more money at that time. I'm saying thank you. And you're part of a really important group to us. And the more we do that, the better off we're all going to do.
What is, to you, the biggest obstacle that nonprofits face when it comes to prioritizing recurring giving and getting a recurring giving program off the ground?
It's just that absolute resistance to change. Nonprofits need to make it a priority. The way that I've seen it work really well is when you talk to the financial people, you talk to your budget people or your head of finance on your board, and you explain this part that I was mentioning about continuous cash flow and ongoing cash flow that you can reasonably expect to continue. And sometimes it works through that direction as opposed to we should change this because we'll make more money. That's a lot of people who've been doing this a long time will listen to that and say, yeah, we're making money fine this way. We just have to work a little harder and ask a little more, and we're going to get more money. And I don't think that might be correct for them, but it's not a long-term solution. And hopefully, as people, and maybe people who are listening to this, as you put together your recurring giving funds, or if you have them, as you broaden them, tell other people about it. Get articles out there about how successful they've been and how you grew it. And the more that our sector knows that other people are doing it and it's going well, the easier it's going to be to get through that resistance to change.
Mm-hmm. I also loved what you shared about how millennials and Gen Z approach recurring giving, because we've all seen the rise of subscription model businesses, even businesses that have been around for a long time starting up a subscription program, or I've seen YouTube channels start up exclusive content for people that give to them. So it is definitely a model of revenue that is on a meteoric rise at the moment. And I think that if we can leave nonprofits with anything in this conversation today, it's that the business world has and will be on the forefront of what shapes consumer expectations. And if your nonprofit isn't offering a recurring giving program, it can leave younger donors kind of scratching their head, because that's how they've been trained to budget and to look at their expenses.
Yeah, that's right. And there's really no excuse for it. It's an opportunity, and to not take advantage of it, I have not heard a reason for not doing it that I think is really even valid, because they can be done very easily. And like I said, the mechanisms are there. But when people from the business community see this, I think they really do think that we're decades back. For some reason, we just haven't kept up with the rest of the world. And I don't think it's business versus nonprofits, but we're in an interesting position in this case, we can learn from their decades of doing the having subscription type relationships with their clients, their customers. And there's piles of research on that. And we can look at that if we want to and see how well it works and learn from their mistakes. And then we can just jump into it. And now we're at a point where that's a mature way of paying for things, that way of giving, except in the nonprofit world. So we just need to take that and say, look, it works. It's good for our organization. There's no good reason not to do it. And let's go.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. If anybody who is listening or watching today would like to read more of your writing or learn more about you, what's the best place that they can do that?
You can just go to lisagreer.com, my website, and from there you can subscribe to Philanthropy 451. You can get my tips of the day, which I do once a week and on Mondays. And you can also learn about my existing book and my upcoming books. So we would love to hear from you and love to help. I guess if you would help us spread the word, everybody who's listening to this, that would be great.
I'm thrilled to learn that you're writing more books, and I can't wait to have you back on the show to talk about your latest book.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate being here. This was great.